This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Ben Lynch. This is part 3 of a 3-part series on using scripting in your practice. In episode 1, we covered why it's so important for you to use scripting for your admin and your practitioners, especially in their consistency, for them to be on the same page. And then ultimately for your patients to get the best experience, an experience that is high quality and consistent. In episode 2, we went into the all-important structure of how you are going to implement scripting successfully in the initial stages and then have that framework for it to be sustained long-term. Now we're going to cover what needs to happen for your scripting to work. And there are a couple of key elements, 3 in fact. And then I'm going to share with you a couple of the 1%ers of how you can make this easier as you implement it. So the first of 3 is rehearse. Now, just to put some context on this, if you are a stage performer or you're a movie actor, let's use the most extreme example of someone using a script, right? Because I figure we can then work backwards from that to find a happy medium. There's a rule of thumb in theatre that for every 1 minute that you are on stage performing, that you will spend 1 hour in rehearsals. For every 1 minute on stage, you have 1 hour of rehearsal. Now, if you think of a 30-minute appointment, you don't have 30 hours to spend working on a script with your team. I appreciate that. But over the years, you have an opportunity to dive deep and really refine, embrace mastery. But I just want to put some context around when people say to me, tried scripting, it didn't work. It's not as easy as writing a script and then just doing it once in your CPD training and people knowing it and then using it off by heart. I want to put into context someone who is absolutely doing scripting at a mastery level, how much time and effort it takes. And I've said through this short mini-series on scripting that doing this well is hard work. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. It is hard work, but it's worthwhile work. And again, you don't have to have every full stop or comma, pause, absolutely scripted. We can come up with frameworks, and I'm going to share some ideas here for you for various levels of mastery and scripting. But rehearsal, you might want to think about if you're going to implement a script, then it might take 3 to 6 months for you to successfully implement that across your team. Again, depending on how big your team is and how well you are training at rehearsals. The second part of 3 is what I call review. One of my great mentors, Vin Zhang, who's an international speaker, has a wonderful process called Sight, Sound, Sync. And it's a process that you can use to review your performance. So what happens is you would record yourself on video doing a script. Great one to do it while you're rehearsing. You will then only watch the recording with the sight, no sound. And you're looking here for how you use your body, your hand gestures, to see whether are you keeping them close to your body? Are you being overly exaggerated? Are they purposeful movements? Are they kind of sheepish movements? Because that is a very important part to your communication. The next time you watch it, you don't look at the visuals, but you listen with sound. So you just listen in for tonality changes, pitch changes, volume changes, pauses. You want to look for and listen to how are you communicating this. At those moments where you really needed to articulate the message, did you do it succinctly, powerfully? Did you make sure that when it came time to giving instructions that it was very clear as to what needed to be done? Now, you don't need to do this with a patient, but you can do this as a rehearsal, perhaps as part of your training. Then that third part, the sight, the sound, the sync, you are looking for synchronicity. You then watch the recording and listen to the recording at the same time and look, does my hand gesture match what I'm saying? Does my body movements match what I needed to really embrace or feel or get across in my language? Was there synchronicity between those things? So that's the review stage. We then move on to role play. Now, this is where you are doing live with your team members a real-time repetition of the script. You are playing the role of the practitioner, and your teammate is playing the role of the patient. And you go through as if it is an appointment. Don't fluff about with it. Do it as if it is an appointment. Pause when needed to answer the questions as you would, and actually role play it out so that you get used to the rhythm of how this is meant to be performed in real time. And those questions that your colleague might ask could throw you off and make you deviate from the script. These are all important things to adding mastery to using scripts. All well and good to read off a piece of paper and then you go, yep, I've got it. What if we role play it and I put you on the spot, ask you a curly question, give you an odd look? You got to role play it so that it is consolidated. So they are the three key elements: rehearse, review, and role play. Very key ingredients. And as I said, it'll take some time for you to get that right. Now, as I mentioned, there are some 1%ers that you can do that really help get your scripting underway really nicely and implemented really quickly. First of all, you don't have to have every sentence completely scripted to roll this out. What you can start with are things that we call milestones. So imagine you're going through a consultation and there are things that you say in a particular order to get your message across. Bullet point those down on a piece of paper and they become the milestones that you need to hit or reach in the first iteration of your scripting. So we're not even looking at maybe how you say it just yet, we're just looking at what you'll say. So think of subheadings on a page and we're going to cover this, then we're going to cover this, then we're going to cover this. So level 1 is start with milestones. Level number 2 is adding in a very powerful question, which is, does that make sense? It's a great opportunity as you're going through and delivering this for your team and even then for your clients to pause and say, does that make sense? Number 1, to see if it does make sense and if they have any questions. It also engages the patient in this delivery, so we're not just talking at them. We have opportunities to say, does that make sense? It also gives you an opportunity just to reorientate yourself to make sure that you are hitting those benchmarks in that order and that you're not disproportionately spending too much time on one of those milestones or benchmarks there. So does that make sense? As we evolve, what we can then do around those milestones is think about metaphors or analogies that we might often use for complex topics that we're describing to a patient about their health or problem. We might use various analogies or metaphors, sayings or specific vocabulary that we use. We want to document those around those milestones so that, again, we can start to embrace this consistency. As we move on, there are a couple of little words or connectors that really help. When you're presenting a particular piece of advice, using "so that" is a really powerful linking two words. So we say, what we're going to do is we are going to implement this in your treatment so that you can do this. It really helps bring the relevance of what you're saying to your patient. You could also just make sure you use the word because. And this is just really powerful 1%er stuff to help make the relevance key for a patient. The reason we're doing this is because X, Y, and Z. So again, we're bringing that relevance and that understanding back to the client. And then finally, one thing that I found really useful to come back to that how method, the Fred Hollows, is to use the phrase or sentence, the best thing for us to do is. Because your patients want to know that you are giving them the best recommendation. So it's a really key line that you could use is the best thing for us to do is A, B, and C. And I'm going to walk you through that so that you're able to take control of your health and your journey, because it's really important that into the future, you know the warning signs or you know how to take care of things when they pop up again. So there's just a few linking words and phrases that you could implement into your scripts. At the end of the day, take it slow, get it right, play the long game with scripting. It's super powerful for your admin, especially if they're spending a lot of time on the phones. It's awesome for your practitioners and the consistent high quality care that they give your patients. And it's great as a clinic owner knowing that your team are speaking the same language and that your patients are getting the best possible care and messages and a communication framework that's empowering and that allows them to get the best possible result with you. I hope that's been helpful. That's a bit of an insight into scripting and why we do it, how we do it, and what specifically you can do to get scripting going in your clinic. I'd love it if you left us a comment wherever you are listening to this right now. Leave us a comment as to what you found most useful out of this mini-series on using scripting in your practice. And we'll see you on another episode very soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast. And please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.